True or false? It costs zero to be a kind person. What do you guys think? So this phrase has been going around social media. I've seen it multiple times, and it gets thousands of likes, sometimes hundreds of thousands of likes, depending on who posts it. And there's this idea that it doesn't cost anything to be kind. But I'm going to suggest to you that if we are simply returning a smile or opening a door for a nice person, that isn't necessarily a character trait. That's a nice gesture. That's being nice. But to be kind takes a little more depth than that. And so we also have this quote from Mr. Rogers, and he says that we live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's easy to say, not my child, not my community, not my world, not my problem. Then there are those who see the need and respond. I consider those people my heroes. So that quote of kindness certainly suggests that there's a lot more involved than simply $0, than simply something being free. So because this is week 1 in the week of or the month of kindness, also known as the month of July, happy 4th by the way, we're going to take a look at our definitions, because if these two opposing views, we need to go back and take a look at what is kindness. What are we talking about? And so I looked in the 2 different dictionaries. The Merriam-Webster dictionary lists kind as both a noun and a verb. And so as a noun, it's just a group united by common traits, which would be a category or a type. As a verb, it's sympathetic or helpful in nature. It's also forbearing in nature, which is a characteristic of patience and gentleness. Kindness then would be a kind deed, favor, and affection. But I really like this definition from the dictionary app because it fits perfectly into what we have been talking about as character traits, that a character trait is only valuable. It only has valuable. It can only be considered a character trait if it shows up in an opposite situation. That's when we can say that it's a trait. And this fits perfectly into what we have been talking about all year long. This is tolerant and forgiving under provocation. So it's not tolerant and forgiving when it's easy or when you agree with something, or this is under provocation, which means under stress, under agitation. There's some tension going on, and we have this tolerance and forgiving nature anyway. And it's also having or showing a tender, considerate, and a helpful nature, the quality of being warm-hearted, considerate, humane, and sympathetic. Now, I underlined tolerant to signify that I have a definition or a quote to go along with that. And so this says, tolerance isn't tolerant if it's only tolerating what's tolerable. So the definition of tolerant a while back was we agree to disagree, but then we can go out and have dinner and have a beer together and still be friends. Today, it doesn't seem that way. Today, we've kind of hijacked this definitions to mean that if you don't tolerate or go along with what I believe, then I'm not only dismissing your idea, but I'm dismissing you as a person. That's not tolerance. That's something else altogether. So tolerant means that there's something that we are not agreeing with, and we are tolerating that situation, that person, that idea. Doesn't mean that we accept it, but we are tolerating it. So what does it cost then if kindness is not free? If kindness is something more than $0, then what does it cost to be kind? It's certainly going to cost our ego, because we might come up against things that we don't want to participate in. It's going to cost us some time. If we're going to be involved in a problem, it's going to cost us time and money, right? It might cost us our understanding. We might have to be empathetic. We might have to cut the jokes and stop making fun of people. Living within the margin certainly is something that we need to do if we want to be a kind person, because when we're rushing and coming in right at the last minute and we're expecting everybody else to hurry through the line, or at the airport baggage claim and the TSA people, when we show up in the nick of time, right? That's not being kind, because we're not giving them margin to do their job. It's all about us at that point. It might challenge our beliefs. It might challenge our attitudes. We have to have some humility, certainly be accepting of the other, whatever other is. We need to pay attention to the stereotypes that we have for people and for religions and for ethnicities, socioeconomic groups. We need to give people their dignity. Sometimes when we don't feel like they deserve it or whatever, we have to give people dignity. So basically what we're saying is that to be kind takes character, it takes maturity, a healthy perspective of ourself so that we are not being triggered, so that we can still be kind, because it's so hard. Like when someone is, when we're having a discussion and it starts to get combative, we just automatically want to defend ourselves. But to be kind, we have to have a healthy perspective of ourselves and not get triggered, not get sucked into that combativeness, right? And that takes an inner strength, takes a genuine love for differences, and certainly takes love and compassion for other people. And so I love this Bible verse from 1 Corinthians that says, "Who says that you are better than anyone else?" And I think that's a lot of where our kindness issues come up, because we just have this sense, whether we admit it or not, that we're just a little bit above the next person beside us, the person that lives next door, the person in our cubicle. Sometimes we see people doing things that we think are not okay or not good enough or whatever, and we're just constantly judging in our mind this hierarchy of where we fit in. That's not kind either. That's more about us. That's very self-focused, figuring out where we fit in, as opposed to serving others, and as opposed to behaving towards others that is a benefit to them and a benefit to the situation. And so next week, in week 2, we're going to talk about being kind to people with opposing views. And certainly right now, there's a lot of hot topics and a lot of things going on in our society that we need to be tolerant of one another and being kind to each other, even though we have opposing views. In week 3, we're going to talk about being kind to people who need help, which is the service aspect of kindness. And then in week 4, we're going to talk about being kind to people in heated situations, which goes along with patience. So I'm going to step out of the way just for a second so you can take a screenshot of the board, because I know that it's hard to read. There's lots of good information on here. And then I will invite you back for next week, for week 2, when we're talking about opposing views. And if you want to follow along in the journal, you can go to Amazon and get a copy of Write Your Life with Grace, Fruit of the Spirit Guided Journal. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Or you can get my first book, No Arms, No Legs, No Problem. There's a lot of really good character stuff in here. And this is a memoir of a quad amputee, and tons of good stuff in here about character and the way that he lives his life. Bob Lohano is an amazing person. So pick up a copy of that on Amazon as well. So have a good week. I will talk to you guys next week in week 2. Thank you so much. Bye.